Dumped my drink on my husband's ex at a family dinner after her taunting, causing my husband to take her side over mine. A few days ago, I told my mother-in-law that I'd bring her grandkids, our gorgeous twins, 5 years old, to her house for dinner. It was a gesture of good faith, as she and Phil had babysat for an entire weekend while hubby and I took some time to ourselves. Mill decided to make that dinner a grand occasion and invited the entire family over. Fine with me, the more the merrier. Except half an hour after we arrive, Jo walks in. The entirety of her back out, titties popping and all. Now, Jo is my husband's ex-girlfriend, who also happens to be a favorite of Mill and a long-time friend of hubby's family. I don't know why they didn't work out. Frankly, I don't care. Long story short, Jo does what she always does at these functions: touch my husband inappropriately, whisper in his ear, try to eat off his plate act. She went as far as to try and steal my seat next to him at the dinner table. Luckily my Sil, a literal saint, was able to stop her. Hubby is generally okay with putting his foot down. If she does anything truly egregious, he does put a stop to it, but to him, her touchy behavior and the way she tends to hover around him and try to get his attention don't fall in that category. I told myself to ignore her and not let her get to me, but she pulled me aside later that evening and said absolutely horrible things to me, telling me that it was only a matter of time before my husband left me and that he was using me as a breeding plant, etc. Fun fact, I am currently pregnant again, and at that point, I had had enough. So I dumped my drink on her and walked away. Jo absolutely lost it and walked out the house. Hubby's extended family generally has a good opinion of me, so no one thinks I did it on purpose. I did, and I'd do it again, but my husband knows better. He pulled me to the side to confront me about it, and was surprisingly angry. Did I make a bit of a scene? Sure, but his anger wasn't proportional to that at all. If you can't tell, hubby is the type of person that doesn't like to make a scene, especially around his family. I have complained about his proximity to Jo multiple times before all this went down. I've asked him to cut contact with her and basically just ignore her presence, and he's refused on the basis that she's a family friend. Basically, he thought I was overreacting every time I'd bring her up. But I'm tired of being the bigger person. Why should I have to watch her throw herself at him and rise above? No. That wench got what was coming to her and my actions were long overdue. We argued back and forth about it for a while before I eventually revealed what she had said to me at the dinner. He understood my anger at that point, but I don't think it should have even gotten that far for him to understand why I don't want her around. The fact that he'd trust the character of an ex over his wife of 10 plus years and the mother of his children is baffling and incredibly hurtful. I explained this to him and he adamantly disagrees and gives excuses, so now we're here. Hubby thinks I should have brought up what she said from the beginning. To me, this issue isn't what she said in and of itself, but her behavior as a whole. As a disclaimer, I know my husband is not cheating on me with this woman. We spend every waking second either together, or with the kids. He wouldn't have time to. I trust him completely as well. It just bothers me how comfortable and desperate that woman is. Mill loves her and Jo can do no wrong in her eyes, so I suppose that's where she gets the confidence from. That aside, I don't understand why he allows her to come near him in the first place. Ida? Edit. No, I was not drinking while pregnant. I have not told my husband's family that I am pregnant as we haven't passed the first trimester yet. Hubby had gotten me juice in a wine glass, but because no one knew, the narrative became that I threw wine. Edit 2. Gotten a couple people asking how taking the kids to dinner is a reward for Mill. She had been asking us to come around for dinner for a while and is always asking for an excuse to see our kids. We don't live very close by anymore, so in-person visits are rare nowadays. She also really enjoys cooking for everyone and would do weekly dinners when hubby and I still lived in her area. My husband's family is Italian, if that gives any idea. Update 1. A month and change ago, hubby and I took the kids to his mom's house for a family dinner. This happens every so often, and every single time, hubby's ex, Jo, is invited by Mill. And every single time, without fail, she crosses boundaries with my husband that I'm sure would ring code red alarm bells in any other person's head. Hubby does not fully entertain her advances, but he doesn't suppress them fully either. At least, not in the way I think he should. In private, Jo is extremely catty towards me. It's as if her entire vibe is copy and pasted from Mean Girls. But her and Mill get along great, and the rest of the family likes her as well. I've been dealing with this on the chin for some time, but at that last gathering, I snapped and accidentally tipped my wine glass over her inappropriate dress after she said incredibly cruel things to me. Hubby got mad at me for making a scene in front of his family and we left shortly after. Summary over. I ended up showing hubby the comments and PMs I got from my post a couple days after, which were largely against him. I didn't anticipate it swaying his opinion much, and it didn't. In fact, it made the situation worse. He didn't like the overwhelming majority of comments claiming that he liked the attention, and thought I embellished details about Joanna's behavior in the post. I did not, and in many cases, I downplayed just how crazy some of her actions are. I asked him if his mom even liked me and he didn't even respond to the question. He looked at me and we sat in silence for a full fucking minute. Many people under my previous post said I was crazy if I thought Mill would invite hubby's ex to dinner with his wife and kids there, as a show of respect and goodwill. Call me crazy, but I bought into the whole she's a family friend crap and continually let it slide. I cried nonstop for days after our conversation. Maybe I'm an idiot and I should have seen the signs, but I genuinely thought me and my Mill had a decent relationship, especially now that I have the twins. There was some stuff that happened early on in hubby and I's relationship that caused some discord, but I thought we had moved past it all. Clearly not. I think it's much more likely that she likes her grandkids and just tolerates the vesicle that produced them. Hubby and I stood at somewhat of an impasse for a week after. I'm very loving by nature, but I've just about had it with this situation, so I was irritable, quiet, just a complete 180 from my usual self. We talked again and he said he'd try to be more assertive with Joe. I told him there'd be no need, since I had no plans on going to his mother's house anymore. Me not going means the twins can't either, since he can't very well be expected to entertain his family and look after the children he helped create. Note the sarcasm. Though that does work in my favor, since Mill loves the twins and he apparently cannot stand to disappoint her. The impasse continued. I've had a few complications with my pregnancy since then. Baby and I are okay, nothing too worrisome, and there's been so many other things happening in our lives that the frigid air between us has slowly started to melt. We have not resolved the situation at all, just glossed over it in favor of more pressing matters. I really do need him right now, and I'm not necessarily mad that things are starting to go back to normal. I just know that it's going to become a thing the next time his mom throws an event. I will convince myself that this time around will be fine. And it won't, because it is never fine, but I'm unsure how to bring up the issue again without seeming like I'm dragging up the past. It truly does drive me crazy, even more so now that I realize Mill's kindness isn't fully genuine. Is there any advice on bringing this up carefully? On resolving this issue once and for all? I'm at my wit's end because I adore this man in every other aspect, but I can't keep putting up with this. Update 2. DH and I met in college. At the time, he and his on-again off-again ex had broken up, so I asked him out. If I'd known back then what I know now, I'm not sure I would have bothered. 2 years into our relationship, I still hadn't met his parents. He hadn't met mine because my family is a disaster, an entirely different story, but from what I could tell, his parents seemed fine. When I asked why I hadn't met them, he joked that his mom didn't like me because of his ex. I can't recall his specific words, but that was the general idea. Anyway, I treated it like a joke because he did. As time progressed, it felt less and less like a joke and more like the startling truth. I finally got to meet Mill and Phil a few more months down the line, and the welcome? Underwhelming to say the least. But I figured it was just me having weird expectations. His family's Italian, so I'd done a little, crappy, research on what to expect, in addition to asking him about his family. I thought they'd be a little warmer, but they were not downright rude to me, so it was still a win in my book. As time passes, I tried to warm up to Mill, but nothing worked. Her indifference slowly turned into thinly veiled disdain. For one of Phil's birthdays, I got him a handmade, expensive as fuck. I still think about that goddamn wallet. It enrages me, Italian leather wallet with DH's, boyfriend at the time, approval. Turns out Italians have a superstition against gifting empty wallets, which made the gift a bit awkward. But Phil didn't make a big deal and even gave me a coin to turn it into a purchase instead of a gift. We laughed, and I thought things were fine until I found the wallet tucked away in my DH's apartment a month later. I find out from him that Mill apparently said she got Phil a better one, so mine wasn't needed anymore. When that happened and why no one bothered to tell me, I don't know. Oh, and Phil fell ill shortly afterwards, which I'm pretty sure she blamed on me too. Mill speaks fluent English, but for the first couple months of knowing her, I was led to believe she only spoke Italian. Because that's all she would speak around me. Granted, I could have asked DH about her level of English, but it didn't occur to me. I assumed one would speak English, around company that didn't speak their native language, if they had the ability to. Imagine my shock hearing him speak fluent English for the first time. Not to me, can't remember the context, but still, what the fuck? And don't get me started on wedding planning. An absolute nightmare. Mill nitpicked everything. We had a smaller budget, largely due to me, and she made sure I felt lesser for it. She had mentioned wanting to be involved and she and Phil were footing most of the costs, so I said yes. My bridesmaids helped deal with her, but eventually, I cut her out of the planning entirely because having her around was starting to suck the life out of me. She also made a big deal about my parents not attending or paying for a portion of the wedding. My family and I were completely estranged at the time and she didn't quite seem to like that either. She'd rant in Italian, and while I didn't understand much, I knew she was shit-talking me. Oh, and she's a classic mama's boy enabler. They infantilized DH growing up, and there was a time where we couldn't buy groceries without her input. He's her golden boy. I've heard her refer to him as her miracle child. She has not had difficulty conceiving that I know of, but he is the only boy she gave birth to. When friction would rise between Mill and I, he'd try to keep the peace but still took her side in many situations. He only stood firm when she insulted my upbringing or tried to make me feel unworthy of marrying DH. Both things I appreciated immensely because those are sore subjects, but I wish he'd done more at times. He isn't blameless in this either, but this post isn't really about him. Suffice to say I have many a story of how shitty and cold Mill would be towards me. But then I got pregnant and her attitude did a complete 180. Suddenly, She was offering to babysit, cook meals, knit clothes, etc. She even kissed me on both cheeks when she came to see us after labor. This woman had never voluntarily touched me before this point, I don't think. We started cooking together, and she taught me family recipes and some niche Italian phrases commonly used in the village their family is from. Dare I say, we bonded. I thought we'd finally gotten past whatever the initial problem was. Maybe having kids with her son was enough to prove that I was here to stay, so she decided to warm up to me. I don't know. I had no close maternal figures in my life, NC with my narcissistic mom since college and hardly any contact with my grandmother, so this felt incredibly cathartic. I wasn't racing to tell her my secrets or confide in her, but toying with the idea that we might be able to build up to that point made me happy. I had postpartum depression after the twins, and having her around to help was a godsend. I was hesitant at first, but she proved herself to be beyond trustworthy, and my husband and I were absolutely exhausted. I love my gorgeous girls, but 2 kids at once made me the bitchiest I've ever been. My stress levels were through the roof between feeding, nursing, changing, burping, soothing, etc. My husband was equally exhausted, and just when we would feel hopeless, Mill would offer to come over, let us sleep, eat, go out, just do whatever we needed to recharge. We would talk, usually about the kids, but I just felt excited that she wanted to hold conversation with me. In the past, she hadn't bothered. If she called, it was her son's phone, and they'd speak, and then she'd hang up. But suddenly she was asking to speak to me as well. There was something extremely validating about it all, and I was happy to put the past to bed in favor for this new change. But recently, through a situation that is related but not the focus of this post, I realized she never respected me or my relationship with her son. For the past decade, Mill has been inviting my husband's ex to family gatherings and turning a blind eye to her blatant advances on him. She was introduced as a family friend, so I thought nothing of it initially. Plus, as Mill's and I's relationship improved, I assumed any malice she showed toward me would naturally fade. She had been inviting husband's ex to family events prior to me giving birth, and continued to do so well after. I don't know why, but I made the dumb assumption that because it continued, it couldn't have been in bad taste. We had gotten past our bad blood, after all, so if she was still inviting DH's ex, it couldn't have been with bad intent. Or so went my idiotic logic. But after posting about my situation, I realized that I was so horribly naive about everything. Then, a few weeks ago, I came across a post of a man disparaging his mom for treating her dill like shit and then switching up when she gave birth to her grandchildren. And then it clicked. That is exactly what happened to me. Mill's kindness truly may never have been genuine towards me. Rather, her love for her grandchildren outweighed any disdain she held towards me. She wasn't warming up to me at all, she was tolerating my presence to have access to my kids. Reddit really is an eye-opening place. Needless to say, I feel absolutely crushed. Everything else aside, I truly thought my Mill was in my corner. The past 5 years felt so healing because of our relationship. I've never had a sustained, genuine relationship with an older woman before this, and finding out it was all fake is numbing in ways I can't explain. I feel so fucking stupid, which is saying quite a bit considering I didn't think feeling like more of an idiot was possible for me right now. I just wonder how starved for attention I must be to have missed such clear signs. Grieving a relationship that only existed on my end is fucking hard, and coming to terms with my own lack of awareness and disillusionment has been a battle, among several others, that I just feel like I'm fucking losing. I feel a bit pathetic, all things considered. Because how did I not realize? And now all these thoughts flood my mind of what she's been telling my children when she's with them, whether or not extended family is in on it as well. I've been a mess. God, I feel sick. There's certainly many layers to this situation, but this one hurts much more than I thought it would. I'm going to stop here because I've already written ample, but I'm more than going through it. Now on to second story. Struggle with fertility treatments, doctors' games, and societal expectations led me to finally embrace a freeing decision to stop trying. We're both under 30, generally active and healthy. We never thought we would be in the 2% of cases where IVF doesn't work. There is something to having so much time to think about having children. It's strange how other people can decide they want to bring life into the world and simply do it. We have watched our friends, our family have very difficult times with their children and love their children with everything in them. They ask us if we want to take them home and in the same breath tell us it's the best thing that's ever happened to them. I have always imagined my life full of children, but when I couldn't conceive naturally, I hoped for one. While I watched people spank, yell at and harshly discipline their children. People who I never would think could do those things, would I turn into that? A lot of these people are shells of themselves. I have found myself wondering if that's what I even want for me. Thousands of pills, appointments, blood work, hundreds of shots, 2 surgeries, several transfers, dozens of ultrasounds, anticipation, tears, disappointment, thousands of dollars, healthy embryos, acupuncture, periods, it has never worked. And for what? To force life into this world? I have this deep instinct it's not going to happen. I will never be pregnant. How could I continue to try and be able to feel this at the same time? That's like torturing myself. I have no emotions about it anymore. I'm sure I'll be sad some days, but right now this decision feels freeing. And I feel guilty. We have frozen embryos. What are we going to do with them? People know. People are praying, people are invested. But I am done. Not in an angry way, I'm done with the game. We are done with the game. Game of the doctors, game of pretending like this is exciting. I don't want to try so hard for a child that ultimately might not want to be born, for the sake of ourselves. We might not be able to give them a sibling, which I believe is the greatest gift you can give any human. It feels selfish, it feels wrong, it's ruining me, it's ruining us. What will be, will be. Commenter, has anyone actually checked your man's sperm? I know a guy whose wife did 2 rounds of IVF over 7 years, before anyone checked his sperm and they found out he was actually the one with the issue. Oop, yes, several times. It's not him, it's me. Our clinic does ICSI. Commenter, in moments of emotional and physical exhaustion, our fears become amplified. You need rest, take a break, take some time, and gain some perspective from a healthy place. Additionally, stop worrying about the opinions and expectations of people outside your marriage. They have no stake in this and no right to influence your decision. I wish you the best of luck. Oop, thank you. My thing is, I'm either 100% or 0. The middle ground is what makes me crazy. I cannot continue this if I know I'm not doing everything I possibly can. The what ifs, the curiosity of ovulation or when my period is coming. Does that make sense? I don't even know if it sounds insane. For example, I've switched my cooking utensils/pans, household products, hair products, we use local soap, makeup, I don't wear jewelry. I stopped dyeing my hair. We eat clean and local. No perfume. I don't wear workout clothes, 100% cotton or linen. I quit vaping, marijuana, drinking. I work out, hike, kayak, go fish and walk every single day. I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my life. I feel good about this but still no child. It wasn't for nothing, but it wasn't enough for a pregnancy. I want to go back to a normal view on these things, not an obsession. I want my life back. Commenter, I feel this so hard right now. My husband and I are on our 7th cycle, 4 with times intercourse and 30 OI as of yesterday. Next step is IVF and I'm fucking tired. I was diagnosed with endometriosis at 20, right oophorectomy and appendectomy at 27, and I have heads, chronic pelvic pain, etc. I got pregnant last year, 34F, on our 2nd month of trying and had a blighted ovum and had a missed miscarriage at 5 weeks, but didn't find out until 8 weeks. My body has been through it. I think if you already have embryos, take a couple of months off. Take a vacation and get away from the noise of it. Reevaluate in 2 months, start therapy if you aren't already. Every month I ask myself if I really want this. Even before my procedures, shots, pills, etc. Do I want this? Once I start hearing no or I can't commit to even getting my prescriptions filled or taking the pills, I'll know I'm done. It fucking sucks and I'm so sorry you are going through this. Update 1. Following up 6 months later on our decision to stop fertility treatment due to new thoughts about producing offspring, we both started a new diet, exercise routine, we both lost 25 pounds. I cut all supplements and medications, got a new therapist, finished many things I was pushing off, our business has thrived. Things have been great without this taking up 95% of my mental space. I wavered back and forth for a while if and when we would try another embryo transfer. Largely because I was trying to heal that it most likely won't happen for us and enjoying envisioning a future with just my husband while simultaneously listening to everyone in my life calling this a break. It's been confusing to say the least. Especially never knowing why it didn't work. I knew from the beginning, it was not a break. I visited my primary for a regular checkup. She encouraged me to head to my obgyn to see if she had any ideas. I agreed and made an appointment. Obgyn said let's do an exploratory surgery to see what's happening, some blood work and other minor treatment. I made it clear that I am not doing this for the hope to conceive. Blood work came back all normal, first time in 5 years. Laparoscopy did not come back normal. I have stage 3/4 endometriosis. They did excision but it was covering my entire pelvis. Bladder, colon, small bowel, uterus, encasing my fallopian tubes and ovaries. After 2 years of being told right in my eyes I don't have endometriosis, this was so relieving. I have an answer now. She gave us a brief description of our options while I was waking up. I've had weeks to think, do I want to go back to treatment? Do I want to try naturally? Do I even want to try it all? Recovery was hard. Mentally and physically. All I could think about was how I have this timeline now before it grows back. And if I don't medicate, it comes back faster. I was having vivid dreams of disaster situations happening and no one around me believing me, brushing me off. I cannot even begin to describe how difficult this has been to process. It doesn't feel real, the diagnosis, the options, this is not me. It can't be happening to me. Follow-up was today, they laid out our options. 2 to 5% rough chance to conceive naturally every month. 50% chance of conceiving with euploid embryos after at least 3 months of suppression that practically will put me into menopause. It seems like the next step. Here I am again researching all day, calling clinics to see who will do transfers for the cheapest. What the actual fuck am I doing? Husband gets home. I tell him everything I learned. I'm still in the same spot, I don't want to do it. So we're not. I am sad it has come to this, but truly I have spent the past 5 months feeling great inside and out. I want to feel this way for as long as I can. Fertility treatment will derail that completely. I don't think the risk is worth the reward. I've learned so much. and it is frightening to possibly go back to the place I was 1 year ago. I don't think anything can convince me. I'm a different person and I'm still done.